Welcome everyone to Holistic Wisdom Live, Conscious Collective Awakening. And as I promised you before, for the last couple of months, for the last month and a half ago, I was doing sessions with me where I was guiding you into some information about health, breathwork, meditation, some of the questions you might have had concerning things that are related to what's happening right now in our everyday lives, and of course some of the health questions you might have. And then I decided that it was time to share some of the people that I respect and love in my life that come from different backgrounds. And as you've seen, the first week I interviewed Brad Bevel, who is a big part of Omega Institute. He's a program director. Of course, he also has many online programs. Last week I interviewed Elena Herdikerhoff. She's an amazing TEDx coach and just an intuitive business coach. And today I'm truly excited to bring to you my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Inna Olshansky. And Inna and we'll go into how we met, but first I wanted to introduce to you exactly what she does and why I think it's important to have this discussion between the two of us, and perhaps bring you all in and also have you understand why this is such a hot topic. So Dr. Inna Olshansky has been working in the field of occupational pediatric therapy. She's a doctor of occupational therapy. She works with children mostly from 0 to 10 years old. She's lecturing all around the world and also taking patients at this time remotely, working and assessing children, but not only children, but families, and supporting and giving guidance to not only those children that are diagnosed with autism, but anyone on the autistic spectrum and anyone with any kind of disabilities between ages of 0 to 10. And right now, more than ever, majority of you are stuck at home, wherever you are around the world. And I know it's really a challenging time, not only as a parent where you have to work full-time, for majority of you, of course, that have to work, but you also have to manage your family and your children. And it is a challenge. It is not easy. My children are older, so it's definitely easier for me. I cannot even imagine when you have to work full-time and be at home and homeschool your children, but also have to deal with the majority of disabilities that we're facing. And right now, I've actually looked at CDC website. 1 in 6 children is diagnosed with some sort of disability. Wow. And 1 in 54 is diagnosed with autism, and it's boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed than girls. So without further ado, I'd love for you to all meet Inna. Inna, please go ahead, introduce yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you for a beautiful introduction, Elena. My name is Inna Olshansky. I am an occupational therapist and working in early intervention office. Pediatric population varies from autism to CP, to developmental delays, to various syndromes, Down syndrome as well. But mostly children I see have some sort of a sensory processing disorder or autism spectrum disorder. I am grateful to share my knowledge and expertise with families, with caregivers, with, of course, with the children and other professionals. So I am more than happy to share some of the things that I know today.
That's wonderful. So first of all, I know you said something. So majority of, as you know, of our followers are not in medicine. You said CP. Is that sensory?
Central cerebral palsy.
Cerebral palsy. Okay, great. Okay. So have you noticed working right now, because you're working remotely also with people, not only do you have a practice where you actually work hands-on full-time with patients and their families, right? But you're also working remotely, and you're able to diagnose and support the whole family just by doing the assessment through telemedicine, right? So wherever a person is.
The early intervention office I work for a long time now, as everybody else around the world went distance learning, which is coaching families, doing video chats with children and their parents, is how we provide services at this time. It started about a month and a half ago, and we're not sure how long it's going to last, but that's how we provide a service, which is telehealth. If you go look from medical perspective, since I work for a school system, it's more of telechats, tele-intervention, but we are not recommending any kind of health related issues. We're not addressing those, but it's mostly educationally based coaching model for parents. Although we provided coaching before, now it's even more so since we're doing it remotely.
Would you say, so I know I've had a lot of parents, people that I know contacting me, and it's not my area of expertise at all, so I don't work with coaching families, but I'm sure right now more than ever the stress levels are up through the roof for parents who have to work at home and also have children with disabilities. And I wanted to see, what are some of the recommendations that you are giving to support the families, right? Because when you're supporting the parents, the outcome and the health and wellness of the whole family is of course dependent on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in treating a whole child. I don't separate their behaviors from their physical aspect. I look at their behavior as well as their nutrition and relaxation techniques and stress levels. Of course, this is time when everybody's home, so all the older siblings who normally are at school, they all are at home. So parents have not just a child that I usually see, they have other siblings doing homework or having lunch or whatever. So of course it's more stressful for the entire family. I always say to parents, when I build that rapport on my first visit and have that contact with the child, I always say, we're partners. I am providing you with strategies and coaching recommendations based on the child needs and parents' priorities and routines. But most importantly is to keep everybody in positive mode. So if it means the child needs more relaxation intervention, which is for some children, it's massage, it's yoga, it's sensory activities, which could be jumping, it could be providing deep pressure for a child. All those things come first to be able to organize sensory system of the child to participate. The same goes for the entire family. Families are stressing right now more than ever before. So how can I provide my service without overwhelming the family? So instead of giving maybe 10 strategies, maybe we only work on 2 or 3. I call in, parents have my number, they can touch base with me if something works or it doesn't work. How can we tweak strategies, as every child is unique and different? I am very much into individualizing the strategies and providing families with exactly what they're looking for versus, excuse me, doing what I think the child that age should be doing. So we're always concentrating on positive things the child is able to achieve. So, and then building on it. So if the child is able to do, say child is 5 and able to complete tasks, say in terms of fine motor activities on the level of a 3-year-old, that's okay. We're meeting them at that level, and we're building up more age-appropriate skills on what they already learned. So that's pretty much my approach, positive, giving parents various strategies without overwhelming them and their child. Really, really important to keep in mind, we're in present moment, we're experiencing more than, stress than ever. So we need to kind of lay back and address the stress before we're doing anything else. I recommend mindfulness. I recommend all kinds of sensory activities that relax the child, getting them ready for sleeping at night, relaxing. It's all part of that relaxation, mindfulness affirmations, positive thoughts, beautiful pictures that we can discuss with the child, just letting the child be able to kind of maneuver with the parent through some of these stressful situations that we're facing right now.
Yes. So I think these are such great points. And to me, what really stands out the most from the work that you're doing is everything is individualized and customized, because as we know, and for me, I found over the years, and most of the people who are really true geniuses in their work are the ones that are truly understanding that one method, one technique does not work for every child, for every family, for any person. It's the same thing as looking for a miracle pill. And that's where you come in, that you assess the entire family, not only a child, but the entire environment. And I think that that is crucial. You know, you also look at their diet, you look at to help modify, because as we know, diet plays a huge role in behavior, right? Outcomes.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer. We are what we eat.
Yes.
So and it's no different for a child, especially with some sort of a delay or disability. Right diet, exercise, giving them strategies to calm themselves down. That's the key. Once we have a child who is calm, they're able to attend, they're able to learn better. If the child is not attending, we cannot expect him to learn, because that's, and how do we get the child to attend? We need to make sure he's relaxed and comfortable, and that could be where, the diet in terms of food intake, but also there is a sensory diet, sensory strategies that help them to relax, feel their bodies in space, which is proprioception. Also feel comfortable and safe in their environment, knowing, okay, I'm sitting, my feet are on the floor, my back is touching the chair, and so on. So those are like prerequisites for successful sessions, improving child's abilities, and progressing towards goals, and objectives of the family and of the child, so that's pretty much how I lay out to a parent. We start from the basics and we go forward to the goal of the parent and the family. But here's the thing, it's really, really important, the diet. I always say, check your child for any GI issues. Is there an issue that bothers your child who may be nonverbal or too young to express their needs and pains and wants? So we kind of have to observe and look at the symptoms, look at behaviors. A lot of times, picky eaters is a red flag for me. Okay, maybe we need to send this child with parents to GI specialists to rule out any physical ailment. The diet, is the child has any allergies, food allergies, and so on. So that's, I kind of refer that from get-go if I get a child who is very selective in their foods that they would accept. And that includes textures, flavors, colors of food, temperature of food. Some of it is behavioral, some of it is sensory. And that's what my job is, to figure out how do we get them to overcome this issue. But my first step is GI specialist who can actually.
Your screen, your video, there you are, you're back.
Oh, sorry. Who actually say, yes, the child is okay in terms of GI, or the child needs some further testing and possibly intervention. I also recommend looking at the child's diet. If the child has allergies or sensitivities to gluten and dairy and all possibly other things, that's something to consider as well. Very, very important, because I see all kinds of behaviors that affect the learning and affect the progress due to, all the allergies and GI issues the child may have. Big one is food colorings and sugars and juices and all of the things that sometimes parents think they're healthy, such juice or lots of fruit. We know that too much sugar, even if it's in natural way, is not okay. So that's where I'm coming from, where I kind of lay out this protocol. Let's find out where the issues are. And of course, I will give recommendations based on the findings of the doctor and sensory. It's kind of, I work parallel. It's not that I say, okay, go to GI doctor and let's figure out and we'll put OT on hold. No, of course not. We do it together. So I provide my strategies and ask parents to rule out any kind of medical problems.
This is great. And, you know, for me, of course, as you know, addressing the gut is crucial because gut health is where most of our immunity resides. It's also, if our gut is inflamed, it creates literally fire, inflammation throughout the entire body and, of course, the brain. And therefore, it will impact the behavior, not only in children, but adults. I've noticed over the years that when I have to, because for me, I work from a different angle, but if I'm suggesting a dietary change for a child, a lot of times parents have a hard time because it also means that they have to change the whole family's diet. And I always say that it's actually our children, whether they have disabilities or not, they are our greatest teachers because they take us on a path of healing, better eating overall for the whole family. So perhaps for you, you also notice that parents have to also modify their diet to sort of have the whole unit, right? The entire system.
Absolutely. So I find the families who change over to a healthier diet are doing better. So the whole family is on, say, if it's a gluten-free diet or dairy-free or both, watching their sugars. So the whole family is on a diet. It's easier for the child to be on the diet, obviously, but also it kind of decreases stress. You don't have to run around after your child. Did he get something he's not supposed to have, or he wants something and he's crying and he has a meltdown because he's not getting a cookie his brother or his sister is having. So I feel it's really important for the whole family kind of follow the same diet, at least to start with.
Yes, no, this is great. I believe in that myself, that because our children mimic the behaviors and patterns of the parents, right? So if you're having cookies and cake and you tell your children you're not supposed to have that because it's going to impact your behavior and your mood, well, what kind of message are you really sending to your children?
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, absolutely. And the less stress, the better. And then the kids kind of get used to the idea, okay, well, I can't have this cookie, but I can have another type of dessert or another type of, cracker or something like that. So I think the older they get, they understand that it's okay. I have a substitute. My friend eats Oreo cookie and I can eat something my mom made without gluten and dairy. So, that's sort of thing.
Great. So, for example, what would be some of the sensory kind of techniques that you recommend, perhaps one or two that you can recommend for all the parents right now who, and I know there's a lot, who are absolutely stressed out, and I'm sure this advice is going to help not only for those families that are dealing with children with disabilities, but I think for anyone, right?
Absolutely. So one of the best techniques for any child who is overly active or overly stressed is to calm down with proprioception, which means deep pressure. Proprioceptive sensory system is located in our muscles and joints. And that's why deep pressure, you can do like a really good bear hug, where the child really feels the pressure on his shoulders, his arms, his back, and that is very calming. A lot of children learn that if I get
hugging,
yes, like a hug, really a big hug from mom or dad, they know this is feeling really good. So they sometimes come and try, even nonverbal children, I'm talking about kids with autism, can come up and try to hug a parent, and that's their way to communicate, I need that deep pressure. The other really quick way of doing it, getting a big fitness ball and putting the child on the floor on a flat surface and rolling the ball on his back, arms, and legs, not the stomach or the chest, and providing that pressure. They love it, and it really is very calming. Most people have the large fitness ball at home and like an exercise ball, and that really works for the child. I have 150 other strategies to share, but obviously, today we're just sharing a few. Another one, if you have a trampoline in your backyard, it's a great activity as long as it's done in purposeful way. Cannot just leave a child there and let them jump all day. Of course, that's not, it's gonna probably make them more excited. But if you say, let's jump 10 times, you get out and we'll play a ball where the child has to catch the ball or throw a ball, it becomes purposeful. So purposeful activity is what we're looking for. We want to make sure every activity has a meaning to the child and the family. So instead of jumping, say, on trampoline for an hour, we kind of interchange. Okay, let's jump for 10 times. We're going to count. We're going to get off. We're going to play a ball. Then you can jump again. And then afterwards, we'll do something with Play-Doh. We'll sit down and make a house, or we're going to build a garage and put some cars in it. So it becomes like pretend play and multisensory play. So those kinds of activities I recommend, easy to do at home, and that doesn't take much time in terms of, it could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but do it several times a day where the child has that sensory break that they need to kind of recollect and reorganize themselves.
So this advice is really great. You're saying for those, let's say, kids that are so hyperactive, they can't sit still, they're making lots of noise, right? So that's great.
The kids who, you know, like we call them like they're fidgety, they can't sit, like say e-learning, they still have to learn online, even though, you know, it's more flexible, but some kids have lessons at certain times. And if it's a lesson, say of 45 minutes, they're expected to attend, you know, to the lesson. So I recommend these kids do something physical right before the lesson. So even like 10, 15 minutes, jumping, doing jumping jacks, if it's indoors, bouncing on a ball, you know, any kind of active activity. Sometimes I recommend heavy work. What that means is the child can put books from one box to another, provides him with that deep pressure and sensory input of proprioception in his hands and arms. That helps. Right before the sit down activity. Also, some kids, due to hyperactivity, they still need some help while they're sitting. Cushions that are sensory tactile cushions, they're air cushions that could be put on their chair, on their seat. It kind of facilitates like wiggling in more appropriate way. They're still seated, but they can wiggle a little bit. And the other thing is putting a little backpack, a small backpack with some weight in it. Weight should not be more than 10% of the child's body weight. So for example, if a child weighs 50 pounds, we can put 5 pounds in his backpack and let him sit while he's doing his homework or attending to the classroom activity. And then we take him off.
What does that do, putting the backpack on?
So backpack is also proprioceptive input, because on his shoulders and his arms and back, he will feel extra weight. It's the same as like say giving him a hug, because he has that weight that he feels throughout his body, his back and his arms, his shoulders. So that's proprioceptive input.
It's sort of like really reminds, to me, it's what it sounds like, it's reminding a child to really be connected and be in the physical body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's connected.
Yes, very grounding kind of feeling. Okay, I know where I am in space. I know where my muscles and joints are. My feet are flat on the floor. That's another thing. Feet have to be flat on the floor. They cannot dangle their feet while they're learning or trying to attend, because their attention, they're not supported. They don't feel comfortable or safe. So feet are flat on the floor. So very grounding kind of things you talk about all the time with, you know, in your sessions, which I love to attend.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense, because to me, you know, of course, I've worked with children with disabilities, but in a completely different way. For me, it's energy work. And I've noticed that all of them, this is across the board, I would say all of them actually are escaping from their body. They're not physically living in their body. And perhaps this is why, this is my own theory, they're having so many issues with sensing things. They're hypersensitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's easy for them to escape. So it's amazing that there's so many techniques, which of course this is not my area of expertise, but you're sharing and giving to people to become aware of. Not only we're learning through these kids, but we're also learning to understand ourselves better as well.
Absolutely. And a big thing is, if they, when I do testing for in terms of like sensory systems, sensory processing, sensory modulation, I test all the sensory system, which is 7 of them, and we possess. And every system could be different. So some of them could be like child as a picky eater that can have low muscle tone around their mouth and be hypersensitive. So they don't want textures. They, crunchy food that tastes bad to them. They can't handle chewing. And then the other kids who are hyposensitive, they stuff their mouth with whatever they got, not necessarily eating it, but stuffing their mouth until it's completely full that they cannot chew. But it gives them the sense of awareness. Where is my mouth? Where's my tongue? Where are my lips? How do I chew all this? So that's kids who are hyposensitive. So they don't feel their mouth and their tongue. And usually these kids develop or show delays with speech development because coordination is not there, or muscle tone is decreased. So it affects not only the feeding, the picky eating habits, the selective eating, but also speech development, which is huge. So that's...
Yes. So I want to ask you this question, and I know maybe this is not a topic we were going to discuss, but it just came to me, and I believe I mentioned it earlier to you. What I want to understand from your experience, I'm sure in the 26 years or over 26 years of you doing this work, you've noticed a major increase in autistic spectrum and disabilities. I'm sure parents are asking you, and those are the parents that are becoming more, I would say they're becoming healthier as a result of it as families, right? And they're searching for...
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you notice? Go ahead. That has...
This question a lot because when I first started many years ago, 26 years ago, it was a lot less of kids with autism. Even like about 15 years ago, it was 1 in 88, then it became 1 in 68. Well, now it's 1 in 54. So it's huge increase. There are things that I've noticed. We're doing more testing. We're more accurate diagnosing right now than 25 years ago. Another big thing is pollution, our environment, environmental hazards. People are using more chemicals in their homes, and I'm not saying it's exactly what it is, but it's a big contributor, I think, generally speaking. A lot of parents I know do genetic testing, and it does show mutations of certain genes that may affect development of autism. So it's a lot of these little things that the puzzle pieces that make the big puzzle. But having said that, I want to say we have great successes in rehabilitative process of these children. There are more services available. Now we know, and I just want to mention, of course, we use evidence-based practice in occupational therapy. That's the only way we do. Everything has to be evidence-based. So once it's evidence-based, we know it's been learned, then we implement the strategies or approach to rehabilitation. So I want to say that even though, yes, we have more cases, some cases are mild, some are more severe because it's a spectrum. We go from mild to severe. There are 3 levels of autism. So yes, we have more cases over the years, and it's concerning. I think a lot of it is environmental, and some of it is we are diagnosing it more. I think diet plays a humongous role in this. Kids now, like if they want mac and cheese 3 times a day, they get mac and cheese 3 times a day because they're picky eaters, and moms, dads, kind of do whatever they need to do to give them enough nutritional content, but it's really carby stuff all day long. Or they like bananas and they don't like any other fruits, so they get more of what they don't need. So I think putting all this together, I really feel it's a complex response to your question. And I get this question all the time. But my big thing is we are diagnosing a lot more. And at younger age, we're looking at different strategies. But also remember, so years ago, there were a couple different diagnoses that were not part of autism spectrum disorder. Now they are. So because of those numbers, we see also more cases of autism. Like, for example, Asperger's used to be a separate diagnosis. So those kinds of things also play a role. But the important thing is we have a lot of great strategies, a lot of evidence-based intervention that we use, and we really have a lot of success. And I have families that I've seen for 2 years, that I've seen their kids for 2 years, and I've been treating their child and updating their goals with them and looking through routines, and they master the goals. I have like what I call them my gold stars. These kids, they don't fit the diagnosis anymore, even though when we first met, they did. But here's another thing, another very, very important thing. Some kids do not get exposure to age-appropriate activities. So what happens is they don't know what puzzles are, or they don't know to play books. There are more on different technology pieces. It could be iPhones or any kind of phone, smartphones, TVs, and they don't really play actively. So when we ask them to do something, then we see low tone. We also see they're clumsy, and because they're not used to that physical activity. So that plays a role as well, because kids don't get exposed to physical activity as much. Look at our schools. Most of them don't have phys ed on a regular basis. So that's really important piece as well. If the child does not have exposure, they've never seen a crayon, they would not be able to draw a circle or lines, what we expect by, say, age of 3 or 4. So that's also a very, very important piece.
Yeah, no, these are all great points. And, of course, there is never one answer to a problem. And for me, I know that as well, because you have to look at the entire, I would say, system, right? This is like a whole looking at everything. And I would say, as far as you're talking about children not being exposed to a lot of things, because nowadays, as you probably know, kids are sitting in front of television and phones all day long, and or iPads, and that's really one of the worst things we can do for our children. So limiting, I'm sure, is something that you talk to parents about as well, right?
Absolutely. I tell them all the time. So American Pediatric Association does not recommend any TV exposure or phone until at least age of 2. So before 2, there's no TV, there's no phones, there are no iPads, period. After 2, it's minimal, like 30 minutes a day. Some parents say, oh, all he watches educational programs. Well, there's no educational program if he watches all day long. Educational program is sit with a child with a book, read a book, show pictures, do something in terms of like pretend play. What do you see? What's going to be on the next page? What do you think this boy is doing? What else we can expect? Those kind of things, like you talk to your child, you give them choices do you want to read this book or this book? Do you want to eat banana or you want an apple? We're constantly interacting with the child. That facilitates speech development, thinking, their cognitive abilities, and all other areas of development. That's really important.
I would say this is probably goes across the board for children with disabilities, and not only children with disabilities, but also to have a healthy adult, to have a healthy mind. You have to know. Absolutely. Right? You have to know the difference between what's being programmed into you by just observing and watching television and watching the news. As we know, it's also contributing to high stress levels and a lot of nervous system imbalances. But also knowing, okay, this information I trust and there's information I don't. So this has to do with internal processing and learning to trust yourself. And so those recommendations are absolutely crucial in raising healthy children.
Absolutely. Every time I meet a new family, after testing, I give them in my report, on the bottom of my report, about page or page and a half, depending on child's needs, I list all the strategies by the areas of development. So it could be sensory area in terms of feeding, it could be fine motor development, low muscle tone, and so on. So those kinds of things I give parents right away to try. It doesn't mean all of them will work right away, but most of them will work when we're done. You know, that's because my goal is to make as much progress based on parents' routines, family needs. So some parents say, you know what, my child is 2 and he's not feeding with a spoon. I really don't care. I can feed them, but I want them to be able to play with other children. I want them to play with toys appropriately. So that's what we work on first. And then we go to other things.
That's great. You know, I was just thinking, this is again, in general, out of 4 of my kids, 3, of course, are doing online schooling. 1 is a university, and then I have younger 2. And my son, who is in high school right now, my youngest daughter is in high school too, he said to me, because he's in private school, so his online schooling is from 8 in the morning till 3, which is a lot, you know,
Yes.
to be on the computer. And then, of course, he has to do homework online. And he's been complaining to me a couple of times that he's having headaches, and a lot of his friends are having migraines. So this is a difficult shift for a lot of children also to deal with. Is, as a parent, when you try to limit how much time your child is spending online, to now this is like the new norm, for now at least.
Right.
And seeing that this is not easy. This is a struggle. I mean, I would have a migraine sitting all day long in front of my electronics. And so it's also learning and understanding that you have to take breaks, you have to go outside, you have to play.
Absolutely.
At what age you are, right?
Absolutely. Fresh air, sunshine, physical activity, you know, that's the name of the game. We got to have, you know, we have to provide kids with the breaks. Obviously, we need them as well, but kids with disability need them even more so. So we have to realize, and once kids go back to school, you know, there are accommodations that are available in the United States, in all the states, that every child with disability that have accommodations. If they need them, they are available to them. So it could be frequent breaks, it could be preferential seating in the classroom, it could be sensory fidgets, it could be sensory, the seat, adapted seat for them to be comfortable and have some sort of room to wiggle. It could be air cushions, it could be different devices.
Would you say, because I know you also have been teaching in other countries, would you say that other countries are trying to implement all these latest modalities and techniques and tools that do work from your experience, would you say? Because I'm sure we have listeners from around the world, you know, at this very moment.
So I am proud to say we're ahead of the game. US is ahead of anyone I visited. I've been to Europe, I've been to Western and Eastern Europe. I can say in terms of inclusion, in terms of accommodations, in terms of interventions, early intervention, intervention through as support through school and through college, we are the best in the world. I have to say that, and it's very true. I talk to different people, and I see we're more accepting, we're more aware. We including these children into regular classrooms, given they're able to follow, maybe not independently, maybe with a helper, but we include them, we're aware of them, we support them with different programs, interventions, them and their parents. There are a lot of public free organizations that support the kids. Every public library has couple classes, couple mommies and me's, a couple different, well, it depends on the area, on the library, but we have story time and Storyville for anybody is invited, but for kids with any kind of disability, they certainly participate in a lot of different activities, and it's actually free to the families.
That's great. So I know that you teach around the world, different organizations, you speak to large audiences. So I want for people to also know, first of all, how they can contact you. And we can post, after we're done, you can post the link on Facebook, how people can contact you, whether it's individuals or organizations, whether they're seeking for your expertise, a parent who is stuck at home right now and they just need the support system and they just don't have the right person to connect and contact wherever you are around the world, right?
Okay.
Because you are providing that service. And then also organizations that are seeking for the experienced people in your field to invite you to teach. You're also teaching online, right? So you can also host, from what I've asked you earlier, you can host a group discussions for perhaps there's families who need this support, right? And they can hire you to host a talk.
Yes.
That helps,
I traveled to Eastern Europe last year. I was in Ukraine 3 times, and I presented seminars, I presented private consultations, I did small group discussions with professionals, and I also attended and spoke at their first occupational therapy conference in Ukraine. That was October the 4th of last year. I am happy to do it. I will post my email address. I have a Facebook page. Anybody who is interested, I'm happy to discuss your needs and provide necessary support, speak at your conference. I am doing actually a big webinar with Dr. Stephen Mark Shore, who is professor in University in New York, and he was diagnosed with autism when he was 5. He is obviously met a lot of his goals, and he's professor at the university, and he speaks around the world. And I am fortunate enough to present with him on online webinar. It was supposed to be a seminar in Ukraine, but because of the current situation, we can't fly there. So we are open for registration for anyone who wants to participate. It will be held online June the 19th and the 20th, pretty much all day, both days. And if you have any questions, you can email me. If you need more information, like I said, you can email me. I respond within 1 day.
Okay, this is such great information. So first of all, you'll provide for people your email address. You'll
Yes.
provide for people a link to your Facebook page and also registration link to this event in June,
Yes.
right? So June.
Yes.
So thank you so much. You're just such a wonderful person and a wealth of knowledge. And I really appreciate everything that you do for so many families around the world. And of course, teaching your methods, techniques that have been working for so many years to give support and to better, I would say, communities right around the world who need this support. So thank you so much. I hope that everyone who joined us on Facebook appreciated Inna joining us today. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week.
Been a pleasure, and I'm very grateful for being invited and to speak with you and provide this information. And it's just a great experience for everybody. Thank you so much, Elena.
Thank you. Thank you.